This conference will now be recorded.
So we were discussing about Oracle background processes. So in that we discuss PMON, PMAN, LREG, DB database writer, that is DBW, and LGWR log writer, CKPT. Am I correct? So today we will discuss another process which is called as MMON and MMNL. So these are the process which are related to perform the task for AWR, Automatic Workload Repository. If you know AWR, so when it is introduced AWR, can anyone tell me? And why it is more powerful? And before AWR, which report actually DBA use? So tell me those name also. Guys, please respond. Okay, StatPack was used. Yes, correct. Now, before AWR, yes. So when AWR introduced 10G, Sudhakar, okay, perfect. So AWR is basically a graphical report of historical information about the performance, which includes cumulative statistics for the system, sessions, individual SQL statements, segments, and services. Okay, and it is used for problem deduction and self-tuning purpose. So basically, MMON process gather a variety of memory statistics from the SDA and filter them, and then creates a snapshot of those statistics every 60 minutes in AWR. 60 minute is the default value and you can alter. And it also perform ADD analysis and issues alert for metrics that exceed their threshold values. So this is the work of MMON. Okay, so in the diagram you can see that and what MMNL does, MMNL actually gather the session statistics. So there is a report which also very useful, that is active session history report, that is ASH we called. So in that MMNL basically gather the user ID, state, the machine, and the SQL, and stores them in ASH buffer. And MMNL samples the V dollar session and V dollar session underscore wait views every second in the SGA, and then records the data in the V dollar active underscore session underscore history view. Okay, and inactive sessions are not sampled. So ASH is designed as a rolling buffer in memory, and therefore earlier information is overwritten when needed. So when needed means when space is not there in the memory. So when the ASH buffer becomes full, or when MMON takes a snapshot, MMNL actually flush the ASH buffer into the DBA underscore hist active underscore ses underscore history view in the AWR, because space is expensive. Only one in every 10 entries is flushed, and MMNL also compute metrics. Clear, guys? So both process actually important, and both process are responsible for AWR and ASH report. So please remember, and both process can run as a thread and can run as an operating system also. And these two process can also run on ASM instances also. Okay, clear, guys? Now, second process is RECO. Actually, this is a recovery process. which is a background process that resolve distributed transaction, so that are pending because of network or system failure in a distributed database. So that is the work of RECO. And the RECO process basically automatically connect to other database involved in an in doubt distributed transaction. So when RECO establish a connection between the database, it automatically resolves all in doubt transactions, removing from each database pending transaction table any rows that correspond to the resolved transaction. Okay, so this is a RECO process, and this also run as a thread and as an operating system process. Clear, guys? Now we had ARCN process. So this is optional process or mandatory process, guys? And what is the minimum ARCN process available in your database, and maximum how many you can create? Yeah, guys. Minimum 0, maximum 9. I think Amit, you didn't attend my session, right? Today there is interesting thing happens in my groups. No, no, it's okay. Don't say sorry, dear. I'm not degrading anyone. I'm not checking the knowledge of anyone. You are working guys, okay? I'm just creating interest in the session. So that's why I am asking the questions. If you guys don't like, then I will not ask actually. Because online training is good also and also very bad also. Right? Am I correct? So today actually I started the poll in my groups. So almost 800 plus in my WhatsApp group. So I asked which process writes redo entries in the redo log buffer. So can you believe that 70 people till now, 71 people till now answer wrong. Only 24 people answer, say correct answer, and in that the first one is Azhar Sheikh, who have attended the session. So he is the winner till now because he answered first actually. So because of I have discussed this question in my session. So because of that, 24 people maybe who have attended my session had given the correct answer. Am I correct, Azhar Sheikh? Okay. So I hope actually these things is not related for DBA work. Maybe some people can say, but for interview purpose, it is actually required. So that's why I am discussing the questions also. Okay. Many groups I have asked actually. So the biggest group is on my WhatsApp group is 800 plus. So in that till now 95 people answer, and in that 24 only given correct answer. Okay, back to the picture again. So ARCN process is basically minimum started by default 4 and maximum we can create 30. Please note it. And you can see in the picture what actually ARCN process will do. So whenever your database is in archive log mode, automatic archiving is enabled. Okay, so ARCN automatically transfer the redo entries from the redo log files on which log writer are not working. Okay, because whenever redo log file is full, log switch happen, log writer will move to another redo log file to write the redo entries. Meanwhile, ARCN come and it will write the redo entries from oldest redo log file to its archive redo log file location. Correct? And the ARCN process is ARC0 to ARCN9 and ARCA to ARCT. Okay, so these are the namings actually in database actually. Okay, and maximum 30 process we can, and how many destination we can use for ARCN? Oh, sorry, archive redo log files, guys. How many destination we can use from 12C onward for archiver? Correct, Karan Singh. 31. One is for local and 30 is for remote, means standby. Correct? Am I correct, Karan Singh? Okay. So, and what is the process parameter by which we can increase or decrease the ARCN? Guys, anyone? Yeah, guys. What is the parameter? My God. You guys, those who are working as a DBA, never done this. Never decrease or increase. Yes, Gurpreet, you are correct. Log underscore archive underscore max underscore processes. Okay, so I hope you didn't Google it. Okay, so this is the parameter, and if you anticipate a heavy workload for archiving, then you can increase the process, and if you feel load is not high, then you can decrease. And ARCN is also run as a thread and as an operating system process. Okay, so this picture will come when ARCN also do some work in standby configuration. So what is the work of that? Anyone can answer if you know data guard. Log shipping. Okay, but we generally don't use ARCN for log shipping actually. My question is that there is another work of ARCN process which is related to standby. Very important work. Okay. It automatically fetch the gap if suppose anything happens, the gap actually. So it will automatically fetch the gap and do the applying and all in data guard. And if gap is too much, then we use incremental backup methods to resolve the gaps of data guard, which is called as rolling forward, you can say. Okay, clear guys? So ARCN is done. Now another process is called as CJQ. So what is CJQ? CJQ means job queue coordinator process. So this is an also optional process, and whenever you set the job through scheduler, so that time it comes into the picture because we set according to date and time. So on that time this process comes, but this process will not do the things. It will span the process which is called as slave process, that is JNNN. Okay, so whenever work is needed to run, this CJQ process is spawn the slave process, and CJQ is automatically started and stopped as needed by Oracle scheduler. and there is a parameter which specify the number of process. So what is the parameter, guys? Anyone? Those who attended morning session don't answer. What is the parameter for that? For job queue process, which parameter we use? Shaista, correct. Okay, so job under queue underscore processes initialization parameter specify the maximum number of process that can be created for the execution of jobs. So CJQ start only as many job queue process as required by the number of jobs to run and available resources. So this job queue slave process execute jobs assigned by the CJQ process. When a job is fixed for processing, the job slave process, but which is JNN, it will do gather all the metadata needed to run the job. Okay, it starts a database session as the owner of the job, it starts a transaction, and then start execution the job. Once the job is completed, the slave commits and end the transaction and close the session. And when job is done, then this slave process do the following things. What are those things? It will reschedule the job if required. It will update the state in the job table to reflect whether the job has completed or is scheduled to run again, and it will insert an entry into the job log table, and it will update the run count and if necessary failure and retry counts, and it will clean up the things if anything happens, and it will look for new work. If none, then it will go to sleep mode. Correct, guys? So you can see in the diagram, it mentions everything whatever saying in the sentences. Okay, and this both process can run as an operating system as well as thread also. So clear, guys? Any doubt? What is if suppose you don't want, then this process you can set as a zero. Okay. Now, RVWR, that is another process. So that is the full name of recovery writer process. So this is again a background process, and it is used for flashback database technology. So when you enable flashback database, so we know that there is a buffer is created in the SDA which is called as flashback buffer. So LDWR, it will read and reads the data, and it will writes the data into physical storage that is called as flashback logs, and which reside in FRA, fast recovery area. So it will writes those things, and it will run as a thread and as an operating system process. Clear, guys? And FBDA, what is the name? Flashback data archiver process. So we had a technology in flashback, that is flashback archival. So for that, actually this background process come into the picture and track and store the transactional changes to a table over its lifetime. So you can flashback tables back in time to restore the way they were. So when a transaction that modify a track table commits, FBDA checks for new undo being generated, filter what is relevant to object marked for archival, and copies that undo information into the flashback data archive table space, and FDBA maintain metadata on the current rows and tracks how much data has been archived. Okay, so FBDA is responsible for managing the flashback data archive for space, organization, and retention, and it also keep track of how far the archiving of track transaction has progressed, and it will run as a thread and as an operating system. Okay. Clear? So whenever a transaction containing DML on a track table commits, this process stores the pre-image of the change row into the flashback data archive, and it also keeps metadata on the current row. So that is the concept of actually flashback database archiver. Now another process is SMCO, or you can say the full form is Space Management Coordinator Process. Okay, so don't get confused with O. So what it will do? So you can see that in the picture that this process basically schedule the execution of various space management tasks, including proactive space allocation and space reclamation, and it will dynamically spawn the slave process, which naming is called as WNNN. Okay, to implement these tasks. Okay, so in-memory coordinator process, that is IMCO, is a background process that initiate background population and repopulation of columnar data. So what actually WNN slave process will perform? So it will perform on behalf of space management, and also if you are using Oracle in-memory component, then it will help in that also. Okay, clear? So WNN is basically a space management task in the background, and these tasks, as I said, include pre-allocating space into locally managed table space and secure file segment based on space usage growth analysis, and reclaiming space from drop segment, and this also do fast ingest deferred insert for mem optimize actually feature. If you remember, after being started, the slave act and as an autonomous agent. After finishing the task, it automatically pick another task from the queue, and this process terminate itself after being ideal for a long time. Clear? So this both process can also run as a thread and as an operating system. Now come to these dispatcher process, or you can say slave process, sorry, dispatcher process and shared server process. So we know that when dispatcher comes into the picture, guys, tell me, in which condition this dispatcher comes. When we have shared memory concept. No, dear. Guys, we discussed that on my session. Acha, seriously, who is watching my session when we upload actually on YouTube, and who is making notes uh, from my sessions? Anyone is doing? You are 19 people. What? Yes. If you are doing, Ajit, then you have to answer this question. Okay, when we had a shared connection. Okay, we use dedicated connection, we use shared connection, right? We discussed in my last session. So in shared connection, dispatcher process come into the picture and it will take the request and it will put into the request area, and from the shared server, whatever server process is available, they will come and they will take the request and solve it, and it will put into the result into the response area, and from response area this shared dispatcher will take the result and it will given to the user. And these things created in which memory component, guys, we discussed already, whatever I am speaking right now, in which memory component it will create it. If okay, I don't want to be burden on shared pool, then on which area it will create it? Yes, Lakshmi, correct. Large pool. Okay. So we discussed already. So this dispatcher and this shared server basically comes into the shared connection, and both process run as a thread and as an operating system. Okay. Clear, guys? Now slave process. So slave process are background process that perform work on behalf of other process. Okay. So slave process is for that, and there is also IO slave process, which actually INNN we called as INNN actually. So they simulate asynchronous IO for system and devices that do not support it. So in asynchronous IO, there is no timing requirement for transmission, enabling other processes to start before the transaction has finished. Suppose one application writes 1,000 blocks to a disk on an operating system that does not support asynchronous I/O. So each write occurs sequentially and waits for a confirmation that the write was successful. So for that, Oracle has introduced a synchronous mechanism where confirmation is not required. So with asynchronous disk, the application write the blocks in the bulk and perform other work while waiting for a response from the operating system that all blocks were written. So to simulate asynchronous I/O, one process oversees several slave processes, and the invoker process assign the work to each of the slave process, who wait for each write to complete and report back to the invoker when it's done. So in true asynchronous I/O, the operating system waits for the I/O to complete and reports back to the process, while in simulated asynchronous I/O, the slaves wait and report back to the invoker. So this different type of slaves we can use in for recovery manager when our man is taking a backup or restoring the data. So we can use IO slaves for both disk and tape device, and also for database writer, that is DBWR. We can also use this slave process, but if it will work better when you have more CPUs. If you have one CPU, then you will not get benefit actually. Clear? So it is not practical to use multiple database writer process when the computer has one CPU. So the database can distribute I/O over multiple slave process, and DBW is the only process that scans the buffer cache for blocks to be written to the disk. However, IO slave performs the IO for these blocks. Clear, guys? Now, yeah. Mhm. Now this instance part done. Okay, and we discuss now the database component of Oracle server. So what is database actually? Can anyone tell me a definition in one line if you want? Collection of data, collection of record, okay, collection of row and columns, okay, okay. See, database is a set of files that stores Oracle data. That's it. Clear, guys? Or should I repeat the definitions? So this data file basically generated when you issue a create database statement. So in the diagram, you can see that database instance is referred to as memory, and your data file, control file, and online redo log file is referred as a physical or disk components. Correct? So which files are required to start the database? Which files? What are those files, guys? Only control file, parameter file. Give answer in one line, my dear. See that now. Can anyone tell me required files for a startup? That is control file, parameter file, and online redo log file. Okay, so as we know that control file is required in which state, and parameter file is required on which state, and online redo log file is required on which state, guys? Can anyone answer of my these three questions? Control file is required in mount stage, okay. Parameter file is required in no mount stage, okay. Okay, yes, correct. Thanks for answering. So, control file is basically a root file, you can say, that tracks the physical component of the database. And you can also say that it stores metadata about the data files and online redo files, like their names and status. And it also contain metadata that must be accessible when the database is not open. So it is highly recommend that you can create several copy of control file in your database. Okay, so minimum how many control files we required, and maximum how many control file we can create? Minimum one, maximum two, maximum eight, minimum one, maximum eight, minimum one, recommended two. Yes, minimum one, recommended two, maximum is eight. Okay, thank you. And the next file is parameter file, which is the file which contains the parameters. And these files are two type. One is P file, which is a static file, or you can say text file, where you need to open the database, open the parameter file and edit the parameter and save, and then start the database. So that was the drawback. And when sp file comes, which is a binary file, and in that some parameter you can change in running stage, so that parameter we called as dynamic parameter. But for static parameter we need to shut down again. But mostly we change the dynamic parameters in running state. So when sp file comes into the picture, which version sp file introduce? Azhar bhai, answer. What 9? 9i. What else, guys? Mubin, Lakshmi, Shaista, Khalik, मल्लेश, करण, राहुल। A1 कौन है भाई? सुधाकर, राजश्री, विकास, जैम, अजीत, अजहर, याशीष, गुरप्रीत, रामकृष्णा, राजीव। A1 कौन है? अमित। ओके, प्लीज यूज नेम एक्चुअली। Okay, other answer is correct. SP file is introduced in 99. Okay, so this chapter we will discuss more in detail. And then we had online redo log file. So as we know that online redo log file will store the redo entries from the redo log buffer, and which process will write the redo entries in redo log file, that is LGWR. Okay, so today everybody was answering LGWR for my questions which I asked in the group. Okay, please participate, guys, if you didn't participate till now. So then next we had backup files. So backup files is an optional file. Before going to backup file, I will go to archive redo log file. So right now we discuss what is archive redo log file. So do I need to tell again archive redo log files? So archive redo log files is basically stores the redo entries, old redo entries from the redo log file to release the space of that redo log file. Clear? And ARCN process write those entries. Okay. And password file is also optional file. So when you are using roles, we discuss those roles. Can anyone tell me what are those roles? 7 roles was there. Okay, so what was those roles we discussed actually? Question. First session, or I think second session, yeah, second session we discussed that. What are those roles for password file? At least answer me one. So my session uh, will be valuable, otherwise it is wastage of my time if you guys didn't answer. Okay, Amit, sys DBA, perfect. What else? We had sysoper, sysbackup, sysdg, syskm, sysrack, and sysasm roles. Okay, to connect remotely to the database instance and perform the administrative task. Clear? And backup files are the files which we take the backup. So we can take the backup of data file, we can take the backup of control file, we can take the backup of archive log file, we can take the backup of sp file, we can take the backup of control file, right? So these files are very important, so that's why we take the backup. So either by user utility user manage, that is cp command, or otherwise rman command, you can do that. Okay, so that time backup files will generated in your database. Then blockchain tracking file, which is very important file, and it is used for rman backup. So when it was introduced, first question, and for which type of rman backup it use, second question. Yes, it is incremental backup because so this blockchain tracking file is basically improve the performance of incremental backup. So how it will improve the performance? Can anyone tell me how it will improve the performance? Only update changes will record after previous full backup. It will take the backup of those blocks which are written after incremental backup to track the change block and takes only those block backup. It will recognize change block faster. Many answer. See, when you are using Oracle change tracking, so whatever the data block change, there is a background process which is called as CTWR, change tracking writer process. It will track the change block in a private area of a memory. So when a commit is issued against the data block, the block's change tracking information is copied to a shared area in large pool called the CTWR buffer, change tracking writer buffer. During the checkpoint, the CTWR process writes the information from the CTWR buffer to the change tracking file. Okay, so when doing incremental backup, we need a mechanism to bypass those data block which have not changed. So typically, these files basically track those block addresses which are changed actually. Clear, guys? Clear? And it was introduced in 10G, not 11G. And CTWR, another background process which used. Okay, and then we had a flashback logs. So flashback database, basically when you enable, then flashback logs into the come into the picture, that are physical storage, and it will reside in the FRA area, and it will stores the data which is required for rewind purpose or rollback purpose. Okay, so that's why these are optional. Now come to wallet. Wallet is actually large scale deployment where application use password credential to connect to the database, and it is possible to store such credential in a client side Oracle wallet. An Oracle wallet is a secure software container that is used to store authentication and signing credentials. Possibly, wallets include the Oracle Wallet for user credential, encryption wallet for transparent data encryption, that is called as TDE. So wallet is optional but recommended. Okay, and these are the files actually. So how many files we can multiplex? Means we can create two or more. What are those files? Control file and edulog file. Okay, control file. Okay, कंट्रोल फाइल रीडू एंड आर्काइव. मॉर्निंग में थे क्या आज अजीत आप? Yes, Ajit is correct. Control file, redo log file, and on archive log file, we can do multiplex. So we can create two, three, four, five like that, and store on different location. Then you will get the benefit. Otherwise, you will not get the benefit. Okay, and yes, so this is done. Now ADR. Yeah, ADR also. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I missed that. So ADR is introduced when it is introduced. That is automatic diagnostic repository concept. So when it was introduced, guys, 10G? No, 11G. ADR is basically a home, is the root directory for all diagnostic data like traces, dumps, and alert, and so on. So this automatic, you can say, diagnostic repository, which we had alert file, cdum, hm, incident, trace, like that. So if you want to see what are the informations you have, so there is a view for that. So what is the view? Anyone tell me? Excuse me. Diag underscore info, correct, Amit. So this is the view. By that you can get that what are the things we had. So there is a parameter for that. We can use that parameter to set the ADR location. What is the parameter there? Diagnostic underscore dest is the parameter which define that. Okay, so so this is the work actually. So this is the ADR which is used in better way in rack environment, where you have traces, dumps, alert log file, health monitor, and many more things in that. Okay, so we will see how there is a command line tool for that ADR CI. ADR CI, if you enable that, from that prompt you will do the things for your trace file management. Okay, so you can type ADR CI, and then you will get the prompt, and then you can type the help. You will get all the things for that. So so that ADR CI is very important for your database. Okay, so in that, if you go more in that, so this is background trace file. So we know that every process, background process, writes the data in its trace file. So suppose dbwr is getting any error, it will write the data in its own trc file, and the name will be like this: database name, and the writer process name, and the number, and then .trc. And server process also had a trace file which we called as foreground process actually. So server process also writes the problems. And dump files, basically when you are dumping anything, then it will contain the information about the state or structure of that. So basically this is used for diagnostic purpose. And health monitor reports, you can generate health monitor report for database checkup, diagnostic checkup. So it can check file corruption, physical logical block corruption, undo redo corruption, data dictionary corruption, and many more things. Okay, an incident package is basically we use to upload the data to Oracle support team. So you first collect the data into an intermediate logical structure called an incident package or package. So this package is a collection of metadata that is stored in the ADR, and it points to diagnostic data files and other files. And when you create a package, you select one or more problems to add to the package, and then the support workbench automatically adds to the package the problem information, incident information, and diagnostic data associated with the selected problems. Clear? And then incident dump is basically when incident occurred, database writes one or more dumps to the incident directory created for the incident. And incident dump also contain the incident number in the file name. Okay, and the most important file is called as alert log file. which is the text file and which stores all the database activity, maintenance information, or all the database parameters which is used to start up and everything. And it is the file which grows actually, not appended. And suppose you are deleting the alert log file, so DBA should create that or it will automatically create. Answer me. Automatically, yes, perfect. It will create automatically. Okay, so ADR is done. Now backup files. Okay, so backups, we know that we had a logical backup and physical backup. Logical backup we can do by export import, and physical backup we can done by rman or user managed utility, that is CP command, or you can say operating system utility. Okay, and database backup, if you are creating by rman, you can create as in backup set also and in image copy also. So what is the difference between image copy and backup set, guys? I know this is not backup related training, but I'm generally asking those who are working as a DBA, what is image copy and what is database backup set? Who left? Please, guys, if you are leaving, then at least say to me you have some work or something like that, and then you can lift. And due to network, if you are log out, then it's okay. Yeah, guys, what is the difference? What is the difference, or what is the definition of image copy and backup set? What is the difference? One line answer. Image copy it is exact snapshot. Okay, when you are answering, guys, so at least answer in a simple way. Okay, that will be better for interviewer. Otherwise interviewer will ask again the question, what is a snapshot? So you are giving the questions to the interviewer if you are telling some hard things in answer. Am I correct? बॉल हमेशा अपने कोर्ट में रखो, इंटरव्यूअर के कोर्ट में नहीं जाना चाहिए, नहीं तो बाउंसर पे बाउंसर मारेगा आपको. See, image copy. Suppose you are doing the backup with OS command CP. So when you are doing the CP use command, so whatever the data file contains, empty block or dirty block, everything will come. So means block to block data will come, whether it is containing or whether it is not containing, right? So same way when you are doing the backup through rman by image copy, so it is just like similar the backup of OS utility backup. Now clear? It will copy all the blocks. But if, when you are doing backup set actually, so backup set will contain only the data which has the block, which has the data. It will not take the empty things. Got it? So we know that backup set is a logical thing, in that backup piece is a physical thing. So backup piece basically contains, and in backup set we can store the data files backup. Okay, and rman can put the backup through tape or by mml or sbt software. Okay, so that is about. So this database architecture is done. Okay. So we discuss Oracle database server. In that we discuss Oracle instance and Oracle database. In instance we discuss SDA. In SDA we discuss almost 12 memory components. And in background process we discuss mandatory components, that was 10. and optional components, major components we discuss, and in database we discuss all the files, mandatory, optional, and everything. So I hope everything is clear. Now you guys say yes or no. Now, in starting, I have said that we had three types of memory. One is SGA, one is PGA, one is UGA. Okay. So, what is the order of memory sizes? Can anyone tell me? Means which one is bigger, which one is lesser, which one is the least lesser in size? SGA is big. Okay. SGA, PGA, UGA. Perfect, Shaista. Same thing I have written. Okay, so what is SGA? We discussed everything. Now, what is PGA? PGA is a program global area. So, what is that mean that PGA? Can anyone tell me what is the meaning of PGA, program global area? See, program global area is a non-shared memory region that contains data and controlled information exclusively used by server process and background process. So it means that every server process has own PGA, every background process has own PGA. So Oracle database, we know that create server process to handle the connections to the database on behalf of client program, and in dedicated server environment, PGA gets created for each server and background process that is started, and each PGA contains stack space, hash area, bitmap area, and UGA. So it means UGA is very least memory area, which created inside the PGA also, and it can create in the shared pool, and if large pool is there, then it will shift to the large pool. Clear? This sentence is clear, you guys, or should I repeat? Can you please repeat? As I said that PGA contains UGA also, but in some method UGA will not come into the PGA. Some UGA will goes to the shared pool. If shared pool is if large pool is there, then it will goes to the large pool. So in which way, things it will do? So whenever you had shared connection, or you can say whenever you had a shared server connection, then UGA will move to the large pool, and large pool is not there, then it will create in the shared pool. But when you had a dedicated server connection, then UGA will remain in the PGA. That I want to tell. So now let's discuss what is stack space. Stack space is basically a memory allocated to hold the session variable and arrays. Hash area basically used to perform hash join of the table. Bitmap merge area is basically used to merge data retrieved from the scanning of multiple bitmap index. Now come to UGA. So in UGA you are seeing SQL work area, session memory work area, private SQL area. And SQL work area you are seeing sort area. So whenever you are using order by clause and group by clause in your query, then this area will be used. And in session memory you are seeing session variables and OLAP pool. So so this memory contains session variable information such as login information and other information which is required for database session, and OLAP pool manage OLAP data pages which are equivalent to data blocks. And in private SQL area we had persistent area and runtime area. So this area holds information about parse SQL statement, and when server process execute SQL or PL SQL code, The process uses the private SQL area to store bind variable values, query execution state information, and query execution work areas. Excuse me. So multiple private SQL area in the same or different session can point to a single execution plan in the SGA, and the persistent area contain bind variable values. The runtime area contains query execution state information, and we had a concept for that. There is a cursor. So what is cursor actually? Can anyone tell me? See, cursor is a name or a handle to a specific area in the private SQL area. So you can save cursor as a pointer on the client side and as a state on the server side, because cursor are closely associated with private SQL area. So naming or terms are sometimes used interchangeably. Okay, clear guys? Clear guys? So PGA is clear. Now, these things I have told, when you had a shared connection, then what things will created in which component. Okay, so please remember that. Now come to UGA. So as I said, UGA is a user global area which is used to store session variable such as login information and other information which is required by database session. So essentially it stores the session state. So suppose if session loading appears SQL into memory, then the UGA contains the package state, which is the set of values stored in all the package variable at a specific time, and the package state changes when a package subprogram change the variable. By default, the package variable are unique and persist for the life of the session. Okay, and the UGA must be available to a database session for the life of the session. For this session, UGA cannot be stored in the PGA when you are using shared server connection, because PGA is a specific to single process. So therefore the UGA is stored in the SGA in the large pool. If large pool is not there, then it will store in the shared pool. And when you are using dedicated server connection, then UGA will go into the PGA. Clear guys? So this is the terms of PGA and UGA. Clear guys? Okay, so that's it from my side today. All database architecture done. I highlighted or I tried to cover each and everything. Minor things I have tried to cover, and if suppose anything I miss, so I can cover later. You can point out me in WhatsApp group so that we can add in my next section. So I hope till now all my seventh session is helpful for you guys. If you are not watching the session again, then you are doing mistakes. So at least you can watch, make it notes, so that notes can be handy with you. So hard copy is valuable than online copies. That is my experience. Okay. So I'm stopping the recording. If you have any questions, please ask.